Tucker did a podcast yesterday that I listened to, or a couple of days ago, whenever it came out. I listened to it yesterday. And another reason why I listened to it is because so many friends were like, he's talking about Dietrich Bonhoeffer, Glenn, blah, 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 blah. And I don't want to get in. I'm not going to talk about personalities. I just want to talk about facts. You draw your own conclusion about who you listen to, and you can listen to them or not listen to them. That's fine. But let's make sure we correct facts and not make it about personalities. Okay. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is one of my heroes. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is one of the greatest men to ever live. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is a Christian pastor. And let me set it up this way. When the Third Reich grew and the Weimar Republic collapsed, there was this movement in Christianity that happened quickly. Within the first year of the end of the Weimar and the beginning of the Nazi regime, within a year, 60% of the churches ridded themselves of everything Jewish. Okay. Now that's hard to do when your main hero figure is a Jew and the entire history that said, hey, he's coming is also written by Jews. Okay. It's the Old Testament. And by the way, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were Jews too. So it's hard to rinse the Jew out of the Judeo-Christian world, but somehow or another they did it. 60%. Okay. They'd gotten rid of, including many churches already had gone for it and gotten rid of the Old Testament. That is something that Hitler's people were really pushing for. Get rid of the Old Testament. Well, you don't have nothing left if you don't have the Old Testament with the New Testament. So the world had gone insane. The Christian world had gone insane. Within 6 months, many, if not most, of the churches had replaced the picture of Christ on the altar with a picture of Adolf Hitler. So he changed the fabric of Christianity entirely. And he was going after any pastor, priest, anybody who was preaching something different. Okay. There were a couple of pastors. One played along with it at first, Pastor Niemöller. And he's like, the first they came for this, and I didn't say anything, and then they came for this. And he didn't say anything at first. Then he got it, and he's like, oh, I shouldn't do it. But he was praised in the end for his unwavering faith. He actually stood. And he was one of the guys who preached that the Nazis were not to blame alone. They played their role. But, may I quote, would the Nazis have been able to do what they had done if church members had been truly faithful Christians? The answer is no. Truly faithful. Now, Tucker said yesterday that he doesn't think that Bonhoeffer was, I don't remember the exact lines. I'll probably get it wrong. Do we have it? Okay, go ahead and play it.
Because once you start calling people Nazis, we really have no choice but to start shooting them. To be Dietrich Bonhoeffer and sort of reach the end of reason or even Christianity. Bonhoeffer decided Christianity's not even, he was a Lutheran pastor. Christianity's not enough. We have to kill the guy. I'm not judging Bonhoeffer, who was a great man in some ways, but
many ways.
That's inevitable once we decide that people are Nazis.
Okay. So his point here he's making about, we got to stop calling people Nazis, and he's absolutely right on it. You got to stop talking about calling people Nazis or shooting begins. Exactly right. Unless they are actual Nazis. You know what I mean? There's a difference between saying, hey, we should not call people Nazis who are not Nazis, and Dietrich Bonhoeffer shouldn't have called Hitler a Nazi. He was he's the idyllic Nazi. He's the king of all Nazis. He's a Nazi. So when it is a Nazi, I think you can call people Nazis. But yeah, that does require you then to make a choice. And that's where Bonhoeffer found himself. This guy was an amazing man. He was a pacifist. He did not believe in war. He did not believe in killing. And that's how he skated for a long time, because he was saying, quiet, quiet, quiet. Nope, nope, nope. do not involve yourself in this. God does not want us to kill each other. He was a huge pacifist. His story goes back and forth. You got to read the Bonhoeffer book if you haven't read it, by Eric Metaxas. But he goes back and forth. He comes to the United States. He sees faith in action, actually in Harlem, and kind of has this renewed kind of faith experience. He goes back to Germany. He's there for a while. He knows now that Hitler is, because he's helping Jews escape, and he knows Hitler is on him, and he's closing in on him. He's going to get him. He leaves. He comes to the United States. He's here, and he starts feeling guilty. He's like, I can't leave my own country. I mean, I can't. I got to stand. I can't leave and hide. I've got to stand. So he goes back to Germany, I think on the last boat that is going into Germany. And he gets to Germany, and he starts plotting Valkyrie. He's part of Project Valkyrie. Valkyrie is the Tom Cruise movie you've seen, von Stauffenberg, a huge German hero, who was not a Nazi, but he was a German soldier who decided, well, this has got to stop. And they planned with a lot of people who said, we got to stop Hitler, because look what he's doing. He's destroying everything, and he's killing millions, and it's got to stop. And Bonhoeffer, when he got back, he was wrestling with his pacifism, because he was a pacifist, a strong one. And he really believed that God said, no fighting, no war, nothing. You're not allowed to kill. But the evil that he saw was so overwhelming that he started questioning everything he believed. And in his class, because he was teaching these young pastors coming up, in his class, he started saying things to the class members. So if a pacifist saw something that was so evil, you needed to stop it, would it be okay? And then they would argue. And the class didn't have any idea. He was working it out with the class in his own head. He's working out, how do I work this? Am I a Christian if I do this? He got to the point to where he was even saying, so if you knew of a pacifist that you really respected and they did get involved in that, would you still be their friend? Would you still respect them? Are they still Christians? Okay. He's looking to work this out, and he struggled with it. Hitler grabs him, puts him in prison. He's in prison for a long time. And the only reason why he survived as long as he did is he came from a very famous family. And so Hitler really didn't feel he had the juice to kill him without causing all kinds of other problems. So he let him skate for a little while, but he was in prison, and he wrote some beautiful stuff. One of the most beautiful homilies on marriage that I've ever read is from him. He was a guy who didn't get married. He was going to get married, but knew what was going to happen to him, so he didn't want to endanger her, so he didn't get married. So he didn't know anything about marriage, except, what he had read and what he had thought about and what he had read in scriptures. And he writes this beautiful homily because he's supposed to give the sermon at his sister's wedding. The Nazis won't let him out to do that, and so he writes it, and it's read at her wedding, and it is absolutely beautiful, and deep, deep, deep. He's in prison for a while. He's now it's coming up to April 1945. Hitler dies in April 1945, and everything's falling apart. And so the Nazis start kind of cleaning up the death camps, and they start transferring people, and Bonhoeffer is supposed to be let free. And he gets onto this bus, driven by the Nazis, and he's being transferred to where he will be released. Well, on the way, the tire goes out, and they don't have a spare. And so they're sitting on the edge of the road, and they got all these prisoners, and this other bus is coming the other direction, and they're like, hey, where are you going? They say, well, we're going to this camp. Great. Would you just take these prisoners with you? Here's the paperwork and everything else. Here's the prisoners. You just take them with you. So all the prisoners that were there, including Bonhoeffer, who was supposed to be released, go to this other death camp. And now he's sitting there on this death camp and waiting for death, and not supposed to be. And in that, he is preaching Christ to the guy who did all of the experiments on the Jews, freezing them, bringing them up in high altitude until their heads pop, all the horrible experiments, everything that is now in every hospital in the world, the book about hypothermia and everything else, it's the number one book on what the human body can do and how you fix things. Number one. It's in every hospital. Every doctor has it. That was written by that Nazi. He released it without Hitler's permission because he thought it was such a gift to the world. And he went to prison because Hitler said, we're not trying to save the world. We're saving German soldiers. Puts him in prison. The guy is a vile guy, as you can imagine. He's in with, I think, a French spy, this woman. She was a double agent. And they're in with this cell with Dietrich Bonhoeffer. And he's preaching to them. And they're just vile with each other in front of him. Keeps his cool, keeps who he is. Comes up to a couple of weeks before Hitler is going to kill himself. And they come and they're going to execute everybody in that cell. And so they go out. And the only reason why we know how Dietrich Bonhoeffer died and when he died is because of the way he acted. He went out, they took him out to the woods, and they had built a hanging platform. And one by one, they brought him up, put the noose around their neck, trapdoor, they died. Cut him down, next one, bring him up, put the noose around their neck, trapdoor opens, they die. Bonhoeffer, when he comes up to the platform, and the guy who's putting the noose around his neck, he says something like, "Thank you for your kindness." Okay? And the guy is like, "What?" Everybody else is freaking out. Everybody else is, and he says, "Thank you for your kindness." He tightens the noose, pulls the trapdoor, dead. He remembers that one guy and remembers that was Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I don't know if he knew who Dietrich Bonhoeffer was at the time, but he knew him because of that thank you. He died like a very valiant man. Okay? In a way, I don't know if I could. What is the difference between when you confront evil, when you see evil? I mean, Dietrich Bonhoeffer is the guy who said, silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us blameless. Not to act is to act. Okay? That comes from a deep, deep spiritual place. What is the difference between that and Thomas Jefferson saying rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God? Do you as a Christian have a responsibility to kill Hitler if you had the opportunity with not baby Hitler? Baby Hitler hasn't committed any crime. You're seeing this death machine and you've tried everything you can to stop it. Do you have a responsibility as a Christian to stop the evil? I think you do. I think silence in the face of evil is evil itself. Not to act is to act. For evil to happen, it'll happen when good men do nothing. We know that. We have a responsibility to act. But we have a responsibility to do everything Christ-like that we can first. But you get into this place to where, woe unto those who call evil good and good evil. Everybody starts to confuse the language, right? And that's what's happening right now. Everybody's calling everybody a fascist or Hitler. Everybody calls everybody a Nazi. And so there's no meaning on words. We can't forget what words actually mean, or we will wind up calling good evil and evil good. That's what happened to so many Christians. They did nothing. They just went along with it. They just played along, and then it became them. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a great, great man, a Christian giant, and a man who fought real evil and wrestled with it. We squabble on the internet, and I don't want to add to that. All I want to do is make sure that we talk about the facts as they are so we don't lose our way as everything gets jumbled.